Hey, everybody, we're getting ready to come up with our interview with the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters, Marcus Allen. Get your spirit right. We're kicking off Black Music Month, Pride Month, so much positive stuff to be talking about, and the importance of mentoring and being engaged in the issues facing your community, whether they directly face you or not. We all need to be part of lifting each other up. Come now. And welcome back to Style and Empowerment Chat with Laura and Friends Radio. So I'm so excited to welcome and spotlight our this week's guest, Marcus Allen, who is the CEO of the Philadelphia branch of Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Thank you.
So, Marcus is just such a distinguished and accomplished member of our community. I don't have my flower petals, but, I'm going to start off the interview just spotlighting Marcus for a moment, if I may, sir.
Yes. And normally when people say distinguished, that's code word for old, but I'll take it. Laura.
Well, I don't speak in codes. I just speak directly. So for me, when I say distinguished,
I
it
love
means
that.
as someone who is very accomplished and has been doing outstanding things in their field for quite a while. So Marcus is, was really surprised when I was doing my extra research. It played professional basketball for many years overseas. He is an award-winning basketball player. He has a background in finance and nonprofit, and has studied at Temple University, of course, which is one of the most respected universities in Pennsylvania. And he also was on what was it with Senator Toomey. He was also on a equity board discussing needs facing the community and our youth, and actually right there on grassroots trying to make changes in the law, which is one of the most important ways in which we facilitate changes for the community. So first off, just many amazing things you have done and continue to do. I celebrate you and appreciate you for all the great things that you have been doing for years for our city.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. And it is just amazing, first and foremost, to be on your show. And I so subscribe to style and empowerment. To whatever extent possible. I like to think of myself as having some style. I guess every person has style, right? And so that is important to me. In addition to that, I subscribe to this whole idea of empowerment, right? And so what we are trying to do with our youth at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and what I've tried to do my entire career, my adult life, is empower other people, whether it be youth, families, communities, you name it, while empowering myself. So I am just elated to be here on the show with you today, and your award-winning show, and you are have a massive listening audience, and you have massive influence. And so having the opportunity to speak to your listeners is certainly an honor for me, and to share our mission and what we're trying to do at Big Brothers Big Sisters is even more of an honor.
Well, Marcus, you definitely are an example of someone paying it forward, and the power of being able to break the cycle, transcend circumstances, because you grew up, catchphrase, economically underprivileged, kind of textbook scenario. You grew up in a single parent household, but at an early age, you found sports. and really kind of got within yourself that, hey, I'm going to do everything that I can do with the resources around me to transcend my environment and build a future for myself and for others.
Yeah, I like to say sports found me.
Mm.
And yeah, I experienced a lot of things as many folks do growing up. Experienced abject poverty, experienced chronic homelessness, experienced growing up without my father, experienced a lot of those things. But what I found over my lifetime, and it took me a while to understand this, is all of those things helped to make me stronger and more resilient. And it really, it is unacceptable and just unfortunate that so many people have to go through things that are certainly preventable. And my whole goal is to do two things. One is to try my darndest to try to extinguish those challenges, whether we're talking poverty, racism, all of those, housing insecurity, lack of education, poor educational quality and standards for many of our urban youth. So I want to figure out, can I serve in a way that affects policy and affects practices and behaviors of people to get rid of that stuff, that those barriers that should not exist. And then secondly, live into reality that those things do exist and figure out what's the best way for me with my limited influence to empower others, whether it be people experiencing it or people who are serving people experiencing those challenges, to empower them to be able to be creative and approach these issues in their own creative ways and with their own passion to figure that stuff out.
Well, first of all, you already are doing that just in the way you live your life and walk in our community. Going from a single parent household to and various challenges that we many of us face to being a CEO and growing your branch of Big Brothers Big Sisters, which we're going to talk about shortly, to one of the most influential and prosperous branches. You truly are yourself are a role model. Now, who were some of your role models growing up that had a real impact in your life?
First of all, thank you for those kind words, Laura. I had a lot of role models. I think my very first role model was my mom, who didn't graduate from high school, who has lived in poverty her entire life, who what I grew up in having to navigate and overcome pales in comparison to what she had to overcome. And so to experience it and see it growing up and to see my mom struggling with things that were not self-imposed, to see my mom struggling with a system that was not in her best interest, inspired me, because my mom is so strong. Like she's human. She's not superwoman, but she was as close as I could get to it growing up. And so I like to think that I took some of those attributes and virtues and values that my mom just demonstrated growing up and have tried to implement them in my life. And so I think she did a great job of role modeling that for me. My grandfather, who there wasn't a lot of men in my life growing up, but my grandfather was one of those consistent male figures. He died when I was like 15 or 16, but he was there as long as I can remember being alive. Certainly had his challenges and things of that nature, but just was a strong male presence. And I think that helped a lot, because I think young boys need to see strong men. But we also need to see loving men, and compassion and kindness and all of that stuff. So those would be the first two. And then outside of the home or outside of the biological sphere, I had a mentor who happened to be a police officer, Willie Williams, who was a Black man who came back to my hometown after going to college for track scholarship, and was just giving back by coaching and being a police officer. And I was born, Laura, with some medical challenges. And one of those was the doctor told my mom when I was born that I would probably never play sports because of some issues with the bones in my legs.
Wow.
And so that's why I say sports found me. And he would say to me, my mentor would say, "Hey, Marcus, like you may not be the strongest, the fastest, or the most talented, but you can always outwork somebody." He said, "So I want you to focus on just outwork and just always put 100%, right? Everything on the table." And I looked up to him because I wanted to go to college one day. He opened my mind and heart to the idea and possibility that college did exist for Black men that looked like me, or Black boys at the time. And so I give him a lot of credit for just inspiring me and empowering me to be able to go out here and do it for other folks. And so that's why I believe so much in Big Brothers Big Sisters and what it stands for.
Yes, so for those who aren't familiar with the organization Big Brothers Big Sisters, so Big Brothers Big Sisters partners, bigs and littles, and mentoring partnerships. There's our branches all over the world. They focus on youth age 6 to 18 years old to help them succeed in school, avoid at-risk behaviors, and just improve their self-confidence and overall the quality of life. So each branch, has their own kind of niche and things that they do. So can you talk about when you came on board with Big Brothers Big Sisters? You already had experience with other nonprofits. What made you say, yes, this is an organization that I really want to be a part of? And secondly, when you did come on board, what you felt, okay, this is what I want to bring to the organization, changes I want to make, my mission within the organization.
Yeah. So your first question, what made me want to do it was like a lot of what I said before in terms of my mentor and what he did to change, help to change the trajectory of my life. And then secondly, Big Brothers Big Sisters has always had like a really great brand, right? And so even if you don't know exactly what Big Brothers Big Sister does, I think the endearing terms Big Brother, Big Sister is compelling to people. It wants you to like, I want to be a big, right? It sounds good being a big. I'm a big. I've been a big for 3.5 years to my little Nasir. And it's not meant to be condescending. And I know there's a lot of wordsmithing going on in our community these days, and everybody wants you to use the correct term, and you got to be able to stay up on when terms change. A term was acceptable one week and is not acceptable the next week, and all of that stuff. And to me, not to go on a tangent, but I think we wordsmith ourselves so much that sometimes it takes away the focus of the important stuff of the work. Right. And so for me, when I heard the terms big and little and that warm feeling I get, when I hear that and what I see our bigs and littles experience, I felt like that was something I wanted to be a part of. And then once a friend of mine told me that they were looking for a CEO, and you're right, I had a little bit of nonprofit experience. I was a CEO for Achievability out in West Philadelphia from 2009 to 2013. And that was awesome experience. And then before that, I was working for a for-profit, but we were doing family work across the country, working with kids and families. And so those two experiences, I think, really prepared me for the opportunity to come into Big Brothers Big Sisters as its first Black CEO in its 100-year history. And so it just made me really excited about the what we could accomplish at Big Brothers Big Sisters. And once I got there, it was interesting because I am an entrepreneurial type of nonprofit executive. I just believe that you should always have some level of risk capital that you bring with you when you're taking on roles like this, because the challenges and the problems that we're trying to solve don't get smaller, they get bigger and bigger each day. The resources to address those seem to get smaller, And so when you have that sort of that didactic dichotomy, it's like, so you're not going to be able to solve these issues traditionally, the historically how they've been solved, because it's different, right?
Not
What
to sound
kids are,
cliche, but you have to think outside the box.
oh, absolutely. You have to destroy the box, right?
Right.
Because the box is no
Just throw
longer
it on the
relevant,
sidewalk.
right? Yeah. You got to forget it and deal with what's in front of you. And so I like to think of myself as that type of leader who thinks, whose perspective and ideas are very malleable. And I think, it says a lot about a leader who can feel one way and think one way one day, and then data changes your mind, right? The more informed I get, the more I change. And
You
so,
have to constantly pivot and flex in these environments to be successful, especially when you're dealing with your own corporate culture and also things going on in the community, laws and other obstacles and current politics that all interrelate, and trying to find your way in the middle of all that.
yeah, it is. And also at the same time, when you have cultures that don't converge, they diverge, right? Because communities, sometimes what benefits them doesn't benefit corporations and government. And so, I think nonprofits are a lot of times that tie in to keep all of those things connected, right? Because government sometimes can be kind of isolating. The corporate culture can be somewhat isolating. The academia culture can be somewhat isolating. And many times the linchpin for all of these different groups are nonprofits. And so and nonprofits are relied on heavily more and more, particularly in Philadelphia. Like
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia, nonprofits provide the majority of the jobs outside of government, right?
Right.
Philadelphia don't have a lot of corporations, and so
Mhm.
when you think
And
of it from that,
oftentimes, as the government is cutting more and more programs, community programs, and support for the school system, that load, societal load, falls on the shoulders of nonprofits.
right? And so if that's going to be the case, and if what you and I are saying and espousing here is true, then we need the best of the best working in nonprofit, right? We need people who can think big and who can execute well. And so I'm still, developing as a leader, and I'm not here to say that I'm perfect and I don't make mistakes, and I have a lot to learn. But what one can't say about me is that they can't say that I don't think big. They can't say that I'm not imaginative, I'm not creative, and I try to bring that imagination I had when I was 12 years old. I think too often as adults, we get so cynical because we've heard no so much and we've had some scrapes and falls and all of that stuff, and then we start to get a little bit want to play safe. And I espouse people to encourage people to demonstrate professional courage. Right? Courage is not the absence of fear; it's the presence of fear, and you do it anyway. And so, if we're going to take, if we're going to take on these big problems, we have to be willing sometimes to take big risks, right? Because if you're not willing to take a big risk, a big calculated risk, then what you're saying to me is you're okay with either things staying the way they are, or you're okay with incremental change. And
Exactly.
incremental change is not going to get us, in my opinion, where we need to be. We need big thinking. Like the big thing that we've seen recently is Black Lives Matter, right? Oh yeah, it's gonna make it's jarring for some people to hear that. It's jarring for people to think that we're gonna call out one race and say this race matters. But guess what? Before that, we weren't really focused on black issues, right? We weren't, like, even with President Obama, we weren't focused on black issues, right? It was a convergence of the George Floyd thing happening, the pandemic happening, and then Black Lives Matter movement and other things happening that said, okay, we got to do something totally different. And so that's what nonprofits have to do. I'm not saying we got to be Black Lives Matter. Well, I'm just using that as an example to say we have to start thinking about what's that next big thing. Like in serving kids, a big thing was CHIP. CHIP changed the trajectory of millions
Yes.
of kids, right? So that is out of the box thinking it really shouldn't be, but it was. So
Which,
what's that next thing?
and CHIP was founded by the late and great Senator Ted Kennedy.
Absolutely. Right. So those are ideas, and there's a risk that he took, a political risk, and used a lot of political capital to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So as a leader, and we have to be willing to accept the consequences too, but like I don't want to just do things the way everybody else did it, right? Because if I do that, then we're not solving the problems, because we've been dealing with this problem for centuries. And so, like, you want to see something stay the same way, keep doing the same thing.
Right. And I mean, we could go on for hours talking.
sorry.
No, but like we're 150% on the same page. So I'm like, do I want to get this one? Do I get that one? But I wholeheartedly agree with everything you're saying. And of course, this past summer, both of us have we're very active in the Black Lives Matter protests and marching for the budget to include community programs. I've said this many times that I've been talking about these different subjects with various guests, is that, there's a point where you have your personal beliefs and things you do in private and whatnot, but there's a time where things are just so big that you leave aside, were you supposed to be impartial? You're not supposed to, and you just get in there. And I mean, I always have been, but this past summer was such a precipice, what they call like a boiling point moment, that you can't just stand there on the side. It's too much going on that is so important that you have to jump in there for the community and also for what's right. As we speak, homicides and youth violence are skyrocketing here in Philadelphia. The dropout rate is in Philadelphia is approximately at 30%. And of course, a lot of the funding to the arts and community programs are going to the side, which I still just do not understand. I feel like it's such a contradictory coin where, all these programs are what keep people on the right path and give them a more hopeful future. But then we take all these programs away, and then we want to say, oh, crime rate's up. Oh, this. Oh, look, he fell off the path, or she's this, she's that. But then you're taking away the resources for the community. Not the quote my dad used to always say, not everybody was born with a silver spoon in their mouth.
Right.
Not everybody's born a millionaire. All of it was so, but it's not. Right. So we can't take resources away and not put proper legislation in place to create a fair world of potential equity and protection for everybody. But then sit here and say, oh, prisons are overcrowded. Oh, crime's up. This is up. Well, it's all part of it. And it's frustrating that nobody seems to really want to look at that in legislature and make sacrifices so that we can keep important tools in place to help our youth and our adults, have a brighter future.
Yes, and the other thing too you were saying, Laura, is oftentimes when we are advocating for community, people will say to me, or even when we're talking about Black Lives Matter, or you're advocating for certain things, you're trying to extinguish poverty, or you're trying to, whatever it is, they say, well, you shouldn't be political. You run a nonprofit, and what I say to that is, I don't know if you really understand the definition of political, because being political is really about the division of resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think you should be in nonprofit work if you're not political, because the only way you're going to be able to resolve, at least in the human services space, resolve a lot of the challenges is making sure that there's enough resources going to whatever your mission is. Therefore, like, nonprofits should be on the forefront of understanding politics and talking about how politics impacts the type of work they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a nonprofit executive. My like simple definition of entrepreneurship and politics is, politics, and this is not, across the board, but in general, politics for me is a division of resources. Entrepreneurship, business, that is the creation of resources, right? And we need both. We need people on the business side who can create ideas and patents and proprietary stuff, and to create efficiency and effectiveness in whatever product or services that they are providing. But we also need people who are looking at, as those things are being created, are we uplifting, or at a minimum, we're not pushing down a certain group of people, right? And politics is the way to do that. You have people say, who are in business, say, well, I just don't get involved in politics. Okay, so what do you do? Oh, I do real estate. I've been doing real estate for 15 years. Well,
You
if you
don't
do real
think there's
estate, you
politics and laws
absolutely.
involved in real estate?
Laura, did I lose you? I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
Go ahead.
back. No, I was saying, echoing your point, you don't think that there's laws and policies and politics that regulate real estate?
That's what I'm saying. So people, like,
Yeah.
they get so into this thing about, oh, politics is, and it's something they've heard from other folks and they've heard for a long
Mhm.
time. And I don't subscribe to that. Like, I am my own man, my own person, and I know that politics is essential in being at the table when we're talking about resolving issues, like poverty and racism and all the other stuff. We need all of that, right? We need business, we need government, we need politics, we need, all aspects of our community to be involved in these conversations, so
Mhm.
that we can bring those different perspectives, and hopefully we can sit down with people who are empathetic, who can put themselves in other people's shoes, regardless if you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth, or you're dealing with a person who was born on third base and swear they hit a home run, right? Like,
Right.
we need everybody at the table, and we need all of us being able to, like, I heard someone say recently, it's not just being a great communicator, we need to also be great comprehenders, right? Because you can communicate all you want. If you're talking to a person who just isn't trying to understand, or can't understand and can't comprehend, then you can be the best communicator in the world. It won't work. And so
Exactly.
we got to have both. We got to be able to do both, and not either or.
Very true. And now, of course, the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization has served over 170,000 children across the country. So just shouting out some of the celebrities who have been bigs and supported the work of Big Brothers Big Sisters. Of course, in my heart, always a perpetual Philadelphian. Malcolm Jenkins, of course, has been very active. I mean, across the board, he has been using his platform as an athlete to speak out on the Black Lives Matter movement, equity, education. He has his own foundation, and continues to be very active in the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization. Hill Harper, of course, speaking about President Obama, they were roommates in college. Hill Harper is an accomplished actor and lawyer. Also, have been very active in the past years with the DNC and legislation and lobbying for a lot of important social change. And then Mr. Cool himself, Jamie Foxx. Yeah, can you imagine getting the call? Oh yes, hi. I'm pleased to tell you that Jamie Foxx is going to be your big. You're like, what? I was
That's
like,
crazy.
oh my God. And then Of course, Mr. Cool himself as well, Samuel L. Jackson, and Philly's own Eve, all have been involved and endorsed the important work of the Big Brothers Big Sisters. And statistically, those who have mentors in life are more successful in work and in all areas of their life. So now the Big Brothers Big Sisters has several like pillars, like they call pillars of purpose, within their marketing tree. So the programs that the Big Brothers Big Sisters have, first is, correct me if I'm not saying it right, is the Amachi program.
Amachi,
Yeah.
absolutely. Serving children who have incarcerated parents.
Mm-hmm. So
Yep.
now the word Amachi actually has some special meaning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead. Go ahead.
it means hope, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yep. See, and so now talk to me a bit about the kinds of things that Amachi does for children of incarcerated parents.
So the Amachi program wasn't started by Big Brothers Big Sisters, but we
Okay.
adopted it because
Okay.
Wilson Good Sr. was very supportive and involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and he had this idea that he wanted to serve kids who had incarcerated parents across the country. And so he approached Big Brothers Big Sisters because at the time he had been a part of PPV, Public-Private Ventures, that did a national study on Big Brothers Big Sisters that showed that we had really great outcomes with kids who were involved in our program. And
Mm-hmm.
so he had this idea of how can I do Amachi across the country, and he started to partner with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and through partnering with Big Brothers Big Sisters, he was and also the federal government, state government, and locally here in Philadelphia, he actually spread the program to all 50 states. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, he Dr. Reverend Dr. Wilson Good Sr. is the man. Like the work that he has done to support kids has been amazing, and his support of Big Brothers Big Sisters, he's one of my mentors. And so we continue to do the Amachi program, at least the concept of it and the principles of it, in terms of knowing that families, particularly kids, need a lot of support when they have a family member who's incarcerated. And that research has shown that kids who have an incarcerated parent, it has a negative effect on their emotional, their behavioral, and their mental health. And so we understand that that's even more important, that you have more caring, compassionate adults that are surrounding that child, because there's a whole adult who's been displaced from them, right? Children don't understand that if their father or mother committed a crime and now they have to be away for a number of years,
Mm-hmm.
they don't understand that. And so there's really no great services for those kids who have to contend with and adjust to their parent being taken away. Of course, whatever their parent is accused of, and if they did it, there has to be a consequence to that. But we should be trying to mitigate the consequence on the
Mm-hmm.
kids who had nothing to do with that.
And then, of course, oftentimes there's a social stigma that they have to deal with as they're evolving through school, and it's natural. Teachers ask, "Oh, about your parents," or you sometimes there's like Father-Daughter Day, or Parents Day, and all those little
Right.
things that you just don't even take for granted. A child with an incarcerated parent, you have anxiety or depression, thinking, well, how am I going to say it? Oh, eventually the question's going to come up. How do I
Right.
say it? Am I going to get made fun of? Am I going to be looked at as different? or people prejudge me because of my parents' situation. And that puts an unfair burden on the child's shoulder as they're matriculating socially, in addition to the stress that they'd be dealing with at home.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now the other pillar programs, Big Brothers Big Sisters. You also support the children of military families. So
Yep.
let's talk about some of those programs and the obstacles that children of military face.
So that one is special to me because I actually served in the military. I served 6 years in the Army National Guard. And actually, I was on alert to go fight in Desert Storm. And the last week, as we were preparing to be shipped out, we got pulled back. So I think I was blessed and lucky that I didn't have to go and fight. And who knows what would have happened. But I've always believed in that the United States of America is a special country, and I believe that we should always fight for our freedoms and the things that this country stands for. In terms of Big Brothers Big Sisters, nationally, we've long had a long-standing relationship with the military, particularly military bases, and so we have programs where, particularly when spouses are away and they're on duty or overseas. We've been able to put bigs and littles, male and female, in homes of those spouses to help with support. I think that's really important. Locally, we had one of our most decorated military folks serve on our board, a good friend of mine, Patrick Murphy, who at one point was the youngest serving congressman who was a veteran of the Army. He was on our board and just did an amazing job of supporting us, and also had a little himself. We totally believe in supporting the military, and shout out to the families who were commemorating soldiers who lost their lives this past Memorial Day.
And a shout out to my cousin Ariana, who is a sergeant in the Army. She's out in California right now. She's just a badass woman. I love her so much. So,
love it. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
So now, let's now talk about the work that Big Brothers Big Sisters does on the front line with schools. Your school-based programs beyond school walls are so important.
Yeah, we kind of divide our programs up into two major distinctions. We have what we call community-based, and we have what we call site-based.
Okay.
And so our community-based programs are our traditional programs where, we have a volunteer who sounds to be a big, they get matched with a young person, and they serve that young person in their neighborhoods, in their community, and they get a chance to go to the young person's house, pick them up, go and do different activities like basketball, sports, arts and crafts, go to the movies, things of that nature. And I guess I should back up and say, what bigs aren't here to be a parent. We don't call it Big Mama program or Big Papa program. We call it Big Brother and Big Sister, right? And they're not here to be tutors or teachers, right? That's not their role. Their role is to simply and humbly spend time with these young people and walk humbly beside them, listening to them and being a support system to them, and kind of plugging in where they see it appropriate and relevant, and being supported by our mass support specialists, our staff, who help them to navigate and manage different challenges that may come up during the match. So that's our traditional community-based program. And then our site-based program, which encompasses our Beyond School Walls program, encompasses our College Bigs program, encompasses our Mentor 2.0 program. And it encompasses our school-based programs. And so those programs, they're really different. Our Beyond School Walls program is really like a workplace mentoring program where we would take maybe a busload of 25, 30 kids or more, and we take them to a corporation like Comcast, Urban Outfitters, Wells Fargo, Stigma, just to name a few of our partners, AmerisourceBergen, which is a new partner. And they spend an hour every other week at the corporation during their lunch period with their big. They get a chance to see what happens within corporations, maybe learn a skill, but more importantly, building a relationship with a caring, compassionate adult who hopefully will have a positive impact on them. Then we have our college-based program, which is more, we take kids to a college, like University of Penn, which is our biggest program, where we have Penn students who are matched with kids in the surrounding schools in West Philadelphia. So that's a really great, and Temple is a really good one too, in terms of our college-based programs. And then we have our site-based programs where we have people in the community, like at Russell Byers Charter School and the businesses around there, because they didn't have time to be in the traditional program, community-based programs, they come once a week during their lunch period and stop at the school and spend an hour at the school during the kids' lunch period at that school at Russell Byers. So that's our site-based program. And then we have our Mentor 2.0 program, which is our newest program. We started about 4 years ago. And it's a whole school model program where we're trying to match every kid in that school with a mentor. But what's unique about this is it's built on a online platform, whereas our staff are in the school once a week, and we do a whole classroom. And we do 1 hour each week in the classroom where we facilitate discussion between the kids in the classroom and their bigs who are online. And then they meet in person 7 to 8 times a year. And you have to have a college degree to be a big in that program, because the focus is helping kids to graduate from high school, and then if they so choose to go to college, persist through college. So we know that not every kid is going to go to college, but right. I believe, my philosophy is every kid should be preparing to go to college, whether they go or not, right? And so for those who do go to college, we want to support them that not only do they get into college, but they persist through college. And we know Philadelphia has a challenge with the guidance counselors and the such. And so our program and our staff and our bigs kind of serve as an ancillary support piece to like a guidance counselor.
So now let's talk a little bit more in depth. First off, so if you're a child and you want to get involved and have a big or mentor your parents saying, hey, I think this would be something great, for my kid. What's the process like for the mentees to get involved in the program?
So right now we have a waiting list of about 800 kids who are trying to get into the program, right? The average Black boy on that waiting list is on that waiting list for about 20 months waiting to be matched. That is a challenge for us. And that's one of the reasons why we are always pushing to get more and more mentors, because we need more mentors if we're going to take kids off the waiting list. So that's not a great experience for our kids right now.
Sure.
But what happens is we're a volunteer program, and the way kids come to us, their parent or guardian, goes on our website or calls us and say, hey, I have a child. That child needs to be between the ages of 7 and 16 to get into the program. And we serve kids up to the age of 20, young people up to the age of 22. They do an application. We send them out a survey, or we call them, we do a survey. And based on the answers to that survey, we're going to people who volunteer to be bigs and kind of querying them to see if they have personality matches, if they have, preference matches. And we're trying to find the adult who most suits the kid who gave us their application and the adult who gave their application. So it's a really extensive matching process. Oftentimes I've heard bigs say, how in the world did you find this little? Like, this little is perfect for me. It's like my own little like twin here, right? And that those are the type of reactions that we're looking for, because we know when people can articulate and see commonality, that makes that relationship grow faster and grow deeper.
Now, on the other side of the coin, what is the process like for people who would like to be a mentor and to be a big?
Yes, similar process. The one difference is, we're all about child safety, right? And so this is one-to-one mentoring. So first and foremost, we want to ensure that every child comes in this program to the extent possible that we can protect them, we want to make sure that we're confident before we put an adult in front of a family and a kid and say this person is a big, right? So we do that through FBI clearance, background checks, fingerprints, interviews, reference checks. Like, you're going to go through the ringer. Now, some people don't like that. They're just like, Marcus, you're getting all up in my business and all of that stuff. But I'm a parent. I got 5 kids. And I can't imagine one of my kids walking out the door with an adult that I don't know, right?
Right.
But every
And I think it
day
also
we
weeds
have,
out the curious from people just thinking as a whim, versus the people who are really serious about committing to the responsibility of it.
absolutely, absolutely. But we also have to take the parents' perspective. So every day, Big Brothers Big Sisters is somewhere saying, hey, we want to introduce a big in your son or daughter's life or your young person's life. That parent needs to be confident that we've done all the vetting that we can do to try to ensure that that child is going to be safe in the presence of this other adult, right? And which is also one of the other reasons why we have match support specialists to ride alongside that match the entire time to make sure the big is getting what they need and they feel comfortable, the little feels comfortable, the parent feels comfortable. So we want to make sure that we stay on top of that. So the process for a big is a little different. It can be a little bit cumbersome in the beginning. We did a survey of over 800 bigs across the country. One of the things that the big said was, I love being a big. I just hate the process of becoming a big, right? Because
But
we
then on the other end of the coin, if you didn't do that in-depth vetting and certain things happen, one, you're liable as an organization, and then two, then people would be chirping at you, oh, you didn't check out this,
Yep.
how could you be so irresponsible, this person's crazy, weren't you doing your job? So, you know, everything has a yin and a yang to it, right? But if you're serious about helping and making a difference, nothing in life comes easy. So if you're serious, you have to go through the process.
Absolutely, totally agree. Totally agree.
And now, with your matching, do you have to live in the area? Like, for instance, if you're in one area, but you say, "Oh, I'd like to be a big and maybe do a match in another like town," or like, could you be from one area and match with someone in Philly, or do you have to be part of the like live in that specific area and only get matched with someone from that area? How's that work?
So generally, we want to try to match our bigs and littles up who live in close proximity, right?
Okay.
Our experience and research has shown us that when you can, make sure that bigs and littles, there's no travel barrier, meaning that they don't have to travel 30 minutes or an hour to see each other, then more than likely they will, continue the relationship and the relationship will last longer. On average, our relationships in our community-based programs are lasting about almost 2.5 to 3 years. Actually, I think right now maybe about 3 years that they last. And so that's our goal. We want to put matches together and keep them together as long as possible. So where they live is, I think, really important. Now, we also know, because we work with 90% more or less kids who are experiencing poverty, we also know that target group can sometimes be very transient. And so sometimes we can't avoid that, this kid is going to live as close to the big as we like. And so we have a conversation with the big to make sure that that's something that the big wants to continue with and that the family wants to continue with it. So that's a pretty dynamic situation that changes based on the family's needs.
Well, I'm throwing my big hat in the ring. We'll talk later, but I would like to be a big sister.
I would love, Laura, I think you would be an awesome big sister. And the reason I say that is because you're great at listening. You have just a bubbly personality. You're well versed in what's happening in our communities. And you have a humble nature. And I think that is those 4 qualities make an excellent big in our program. And so some young lady, young girl would be just, so blessed to have you at their big.
I can have my little coming studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Like think about like that experience. I call it that's something I call extraordinary experience, right? Something that a kid experiences that they would have never experienced had it not been for you, right? And so those are moments where they are life defining for some of our kids. We have stories. Joe Marone, who's a lawyer on our board, he has his own law firm, Marone Law Group. He and his little go back 20 years or more, and
Wow.
now and his little had a lot of challenges growing up. But guess what? His little now is like 29, maybe 30, and is a lawyer in his law firm, very successful lawyer in his law firm. And so I could give you all kinds of stories. I got Mike and Justin, who's going to be speaking at our board meeting next week. Mike has been in Justin's life for I'd like to say 7, 8 years. No, that's not true. Like 9, 10 years. Justin now just graduated from Widener University. Mike was a auditor slash accountant. Now Justin has his CPA and just got a really big job working for a firm, a tax firm, financial firm. So we know just anecdotally and through research that adults, when they spend quality time with a young person, it is highly influential. And I'm not saying that just because you spend time with a kid that that's going to change their life. I'm not saying that you're even going to know how it changes a kid's life. But I am saying that I can think of hundreds of examples that we've seen and we can prove that had it not been for that adult and the time that they spent and the quality strength of relationship that was built had an influence on that child.
And feeling that someone outside of your home cares about you and is vested in your future and cares about what you're going through is just
Absolutely.
so that's something that's important just throughout life. No matter how old we are and successful or where we go in life, feeling that somebody cares about our success and our development and the issues we're facing, is that extra boost that helps it take us to successful places. Something that very important to me that one of the things that I love about your organization is the work on self-confidence and
Yes.
self-esteem and finding your internal power and how to stay strong within yourself to transcend past setbacks. So, can you talk a bit about the important effects on your self-esteem that the work that your organization impacts?
Yeah. So, really, there's three factors that like we we talk about that we believe our organization impacts. One is aspiration, right? We are really concerned with how does a young person see their future, like,
Mhm.
and how do we measure that both pre and post test. We do self test that kids take, and we get a chance to understand how they think of themselves and how they think of their futures. And then when they're leaving the program at discharge, we do another and to see where that goes. And so we're really concerned with like kids really aspiring and mentally and emotionally investing in a positive future for themselves, right? So that's one. Two is hope, right? Do they have a sense of hope? Right. We know research tells us that when kids, particularly kids, adults as well, but particularly kids, have hope in their lives, it changes their behavior for the better. And that goes into the third one, which is behavior. We look at mostly academic behavior, and we look at mitigating risk behavior, meaning that they haven't had any more interaction with the police or the criminal justice system, right? And that they're staying out of trouble. They're not being suspended from school. They're maintaining, I guess, good grades or at least
Mhm.
passing grades, and they're increasing in that as well. So those are the three areas we look at: aspiration, hope, and academic behavior.
All of which are just so important. And, just being conscious of how sometimes people are drawing inspiration and you don't even know. You're just out there, living your life and you're inspiring people and you don't even realize it. So every day, just having the courage to get up and get out there. You could be uplifting someone and not even realizing it. So it's just so important that we believe in ourselves and that we have the caring to make sure we're treating others with love and understanding, even if you don't understand what someone's going through or their perspective, but that you care to want to hear and try and understand and validate what we're all going through in this life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now, Marcus, you also have something exciting coming up to raise awareness for the Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Of course, coming from a background in athletics and whatnot, putting that to good use. So you have an exciting biking program happening right now. You want to talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I may take you off of video for a second because there's some information on there I want to make sure your listening audience has. Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right. So yeah, so we are going to be doing engaged in the Miles for Mentoring campaign over the next 7 weeks. And so basically what it entails is, well, part of what it entails is me and three of my friends. We're going to be riding a bike, cycling from starting June the 5th from San Francisco, California. We're going to dip our wheels in the Pacific Ocean on June 5th. And we're going
Oh
to
my
take
God.
those bikes all the way across the United States, all the way over to Atlantic City, where on July 23rd, we'll dip our wheels into the Atlantic Ocean. So we're going to be traveling 3,800 miles on bike to
Oh my
raise
gosh.
awareness about Big Brothers Big Sisters, and our goal to take 800 kids off of our waiting list here locally, as well as 30,000 kids on the waiting list across the country for Big Brothers Big Sisters. And so we have over 240 affiliates. We're going to be stopping in different towns and states and talking to board members and bigs and littles and parents about what's happening in their
That's so
their
exciting.
regions. Yeah, yeah. So we are so excited about it. We are partnering with so many really great people and sponsors that I am just really excited about this. And part of it, Laura, is for 7 weeks. Each week is going to have its own theme. So week one,
Okay.
we're doing the power of mentorship. Week two, we're doing social justice. Week three, we're doing community engagement. Week four, educational equality. Week five, building social equity. Week six, empowerment of youth. And then week seven is going to be all about resilience. And I think that's so fitting because that's that last week. And I'm sure we're going to be done by week seven. And so really
I
thinking
hope
about
that you're at least
resilience.
flying out to California to start off with.
Say that again.
I said, I hope at least you're flying out to California to
Oh
start
yeah.
out with.
Yeah, we're gonna fly. I'm getting on a flight Thursday evening, and I'll be in California around 10 o'clock, and then I'll take all day Friday to rest up and acclimate to the time change, and then get on a bike on Saturday.
Wow. Well, I think you should also have a segment that has to do with fashion and makeup and styling.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, we can fit it in because again, I'm all about style. So
Yes.
we could definitely do that. And before I forget, let me also give your listening audience ways that they can participate and
Yes.
support
Please
this.
do.
So they can go, if they want to get involved in the campaign, they can visit miles.givesmart.com. That's miles, Miles dot givesmart, GIVESMART.com. Or if they just want to simply donate, they can text the word miles, Miles, to 76728. Text miles, Miles, to 76728. So they can definitely donate, or they can also go to our website to sign up to be bigs, which I'm hoping that you're going to do that. Go to our website to sign up to be a big, and or people can donate as well at our website.
Well, that's fantastic. And of course, Marcus is going to be all over the country. So wherever you are outside of Philadelphia here, that's a great opportunity for you to get involved and see where they're going to be stopping in your neck of the woods. I encourage all of our listeners to visit the Big Brothers Big Sisters website and get involved. There's so many great kids out there waiting to be mentored. All my listeners around the world, especially now that we have virtual mentoring, which is also something I want to chat about more in depth later. You know, you could be outside of the US and do virtual mentoring. So,
Absolutely.
especially since on my show, we're in London, we're in Pakistan, we're in Malaysia, Cleveland, all over the world. Don't feel that if you're outside of the states that you can't jump in and participate in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. So they're waiting for great mentors like you. So Marcus, where can everybody follow you and the organization on social media?
So they can go to on Facebook is Independence Bigs, and on Instagram as well. Our IG is Independence Bigs, and I'll be posting each day live posts about what's happening from the road, what we're doing, what we're up to. We're also going to be doing some documenting with our GoPro cameras, so we'll be providing video and pictures and all
The
of that
helmet
stuff.
cameras.
Yep, on the cameras, absolutely. So if people want to follow us and they want to get involved, please do so. Follow us on the website. Follow us on the website, our social media feeds. And I'm just looking forward to it. I'm so excited. And I'm going with three buddies, Gary Jonas, Art Elwood, and John Krause. They're joining me. They're three bike riders. They've been riding together for over 20 years. I'm a newbie at this, so it's going to be interesting doing this ride with those guys.
Well, make sure you hydrate out there.
Oh, absolutely. Hydrate and keep food in the body because there's going to be some hot days.
Well, I look forward to when we, can safely have events again and, looking forward to things in the future. And I applaud you for all the great things you're doing to continuously help and inspire our community. I look forward to doing things together. And after you complete your bike campaign, we'll get together and chat. Definitely follow Big Brothers Big Sisters. Sign up. You can follow me on the Style and Empowerment Chat with Laura Friends Facebook page, on Instagram at the Laura Magic. We're gonna take you out on another fun musical break as we continue to celebrate Pride Month, Black Music Month. I mean, we're always celebrating everybody doing great things here.
Yes.
So that's a party that doesn't stop, but everybody else has to put a label on it. We're just in perpetualness here. But thank you for being on the show and just all the impactful and important things you shared today. It's been a pleasure, and keep doing all your amazing work.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you to your listening audience. Looking forward to hearing from them, corresponding with them. And yep, happy LGBTQ month, happy Black Music Month to you. And I love the music you're playing. And just keep rocking, my friend. Keep being great. Keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. You're a wonderful person, and again, I wish you nothing but the best success in everything that you do.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.